day and welcome to today's class. In today's class, we are going to be considering another aspect of statistics. In our previous lesson, we considered the introductory part or the introduction to statistics. Now, while that video was uploaded, someone in the comment section talked about me working on group data, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and that prompted my making this particular video. Now, if you have not watched that video, I will advise that you go look or check at it and go over it so that it will be a guide towards your comprehension or understanding of this aspect of the class. Now, in this class, we are going to be considering the determination of mean, median, and mode of group data. Now, in the previous video, we talked about center of tendency and the measures of central tendency and measures of dispersion. So we are going to be looking at the group aspect of data. We have the ungroup aspect, which we'll consider in some other time or in some other video. But in this particular video, we're just going to be considering how we determine the mean, median, and mode of a group frequency data. Now, let's explain this with the aid of an example. Now, we have an example in these questions. In this example says, in a college, the number of absentees recorded over a period of 30 days was as shown in the frequency distribution table below. Now, this is the frequency distribution table. We have the number of absentees, which actually connote our class interval in this case. And we have number of days, which also connote our frequency in this case. Now, the number of our absentees was actually grouped. That is why it is called a group frequency distribution. It was grouped into a class with a class width of 5. Like in this case, we started from 0 to 4, meaning the number span between 5 because 0 is inclusive or included in the class interval. So we have 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, 15 to 19, and 20 to 24. The frequencies or the number of days are 1, 5, 10, 9, and 15. Now, in this question, we were asked to calculate the mean, the median, and the mode. And that is essentially what this video is all about. How we'll be able to determine the mean, median, and mode of a group frequency distribution. Now, let's see how this will be done or solved. Now, in the solution aspect of it, now, before you solve, you will be required to actually construct a table, even though in the question it was not categorically stated, but it is usually helpful to construct a table whether you are asked or not. In the first column of the table, we have number of absentees, which also connote, like I said before, class intervals. Because in some other questions, they will use class intervals to connote this number of absentees. And we have 0 to 4, like we had in the previous table. We also have the frequency, which is F. Now, if you look at the question itself, we were asked to find the mean. And if we are going to find mean, it means that we also have to look for fx. And we cannot get fx except as we have gotten x. Now, the only way we can get our x is to add the values. Now, this is how we arrive at these values of x, which is actually called the mid-class. Like the name suggests, mid-class, the middle of the class. Now, how do we arrive at the middle of the class? We'll come over to this number of absentees, which is our class interval. Now, if you add this 0, the lower class limit, to 4, the upper class limit, our 0 plus 4 will give us 4. Divided by 2, we arrive at this 2. Our 5 plus 9 will give us 14. Divided by 2, we have 7. Our 10 plus 4 will give us 24. Divided by 2, we have 12. Our 15 plus 9 will give us 34. You divide, you have 17. And the last one there will give us 20 plus 24. When divided by 2, will give us 22, because 20 plus 24 will give us 44. Divided by 2 will give us 22. Now that we have all the values of our x, as you can see on this column, the next thing for us to do that will help us to be able to find our mean is to determine the value of what? Fx. Now, fx simply means f multiplied what? With x, or f multiplied by x. Now, to do that, we say our 1 times 2 will give us 2. Our 5 times 7 will give us 35. Our 10 times 12 will give us 120. Our 9 times 17 give us 153. And our 5 times 22 give us 110. Now, summation fx means addition of all the values of what? F times x. Now, if you add all the values from 2 to 35 to 120 to 153 and 110, we'll end up having what? 420. If we add all the frequencies together, which connotes summation f, we end up having what? 30. Now, in the first question, remember we're asked to determine what? The mean. Now, to find the mean, you will notice that the formula for our mean is summation f of x all over summation f. All we need to do is to plug in the values that we already have on the table into what? This equation. Now, if you look at the table, our f of x is equals to 420 and our summation f is equals to what? 30. Now, we are going to substitute these two values into this equation that we have. Now, if we do that, we are going to have 420 over what? Over 30. Now, this 430 divided by what? 30 will end up giving us what? This value we have here, which is what? 14. How did we arrive at that value? 0 will cancel what? 0. Now we have 42 divided by what? 3. 3 in 4 is 1. And remainder 1. 3 in 12 will give us what? 4. That is how we arrive at what? At 14. So the mean of this question is actually what? 14. Now, we were actually asked to determine both the mean, the median, and actually what? The mode. Now that we have already determined what the mean, let's look at the median. Now, in getting the median, you look at what? This is how the formula is going to what? To look like. Now, our median is equals to what? L1. L1, or some people will call it LM. LM or L1 means the lower class boundary of the median class, or the lower class what boundary of the particular class in question. Because we are trying to determine the value of the median, the L1 stands for what? The lower class boundary of the median. Now, you're already familiar with this thing we call here summation f, which is the addition of all the what? Frequency over 2 minus CFBM. Now, this CFBM connotes what? The cumulative frequency before the median class. Cumulative frequency before the median class means addition of all the frequency. Add all the frequency before you get to the median class. Our FM here in this question stands for the what? Frequency of the median class, while our C actually stands for the class width. Our C stands for what? For the class width. C stands for the class, or the wideness of the class. Now, one of the most important thing in this formula of the median is that when you are solving question, the first thing you are going to do when you are solving for your median, when you are solving question, the first thing you are going to do when you are solving for your median is to determine this value here, summation f over 2. It gives you an idea and it helps you to understand where your median class is going to fall what into. Now, remember that our summation f is 30. Now, if you divide your 30 by these two that we have here, we are going to have 15. Now, when you have 15, you come back to your frequency. Now, you will notice that on the table, the first value we have for our frequency is 1. Can you find 15 inside 1? No. You add what? 1 to this 5. That means we have left this class and we are now in this new class of what? With frequency of what? 5. If you add 1 to this one, it becomes what? 6. We cannot also find what? 15 inside 6. So we need to what? Move to the next what? Class. If we move to the next class, which is this class where the frequency is what? 10. Now, if you add all the frequency from here, 1 to what? To 5, it gives us 6. To 10, it gives us what? 16. Now, can we find 15 inside 16? Yes. If you trace it back to this side, you will notice that what? The class where we can find what? Our median, or where we can find 15 is actually what? 10 to what? To 14. So 10 to 14 becomes what? The median what? Class. 10 to 14 becomes the median class. Now, 10 here on the side of the frequency becomes the frequency of the median class. That means our FM will actually be equals to what? To 10 in this case. Now, remember that our summation F is already what? 30 divided by 2 is what? 15. That is how we're able to what? Determine that what? 10 to 14 is the median what? Class. Now that we have been able to establish that 10 to 14 is the median class, how do we get the lower class boundary? Since the lower limit of this median class is 10, to get the lower class boundary, you subtract 0.5 from it. So 10 minus 0.5 will give us what? 9.5. I want you to keep those values that value in mind. And remember that our summation our summation f over 2 gave us 15. Also keep that value in mind. Our fm, which is the frequency of the median class, is actually 10. Again, you need to keep that value in mind. Our cumulative frequency before the median class, that means addition of all the frequency before the median class. Remember that this is the median class, so the frequencies before the median class is just 1 and 5. So added together, it will give us 6, meaning our cumulative frequency before the median class is actually 6. Also keep that value at the back of your mind. Now our C, which is our class width, is just the difference between either the upper class limit or the lower class limit of two class that are simultaneous, or two class that are very close to each other. What we mean by that is this: if you look at this is the first class and this is the second class. So to get the class width, which is C, it will be your lower class limit of the second class minus that of the first class, or the upper class limit of your second class minus that of the first class. So your 9 minus 4 will give you 5, or your 5 minus 0 will give you 5. You can also compare the second to the third. So if you compare the second to the third, your 10 minus 5 will also give you 5, while your 14 minus 9 will give you 5. Now, one thing you must know is that you cannot compare the first to the third, neither can you compare the second to the fourth. No. If you are going to look for your C, it has to be the first compared to the second, or the second compared to the third, or the third compared to the fourth, or the fourth compared to the fifth. And remember, we said it is the lower class limit of the higher class minus that of the immediate lower class, minus the lower class limit of the immediate lower class, or the class just before it. Now let's substitute all these values that we have at the back of our mind. Remember, we have calculated our L1 to be 9.5, and if we substitute the other values, we are going to have 30 for summation F, 2 for 2 as it were in the formula, and our cumulative frequency before the median class is 6. Remember, we agreed that is the addition of all the frequencies before the median class, which is this 1 and 5. That gave us 6. Our class width is still 5, and our frequency of the median class is still is 10. Now, if we do that, we are going to arrive at this value, because 30 divided by 2 gave us 15. 15 minus 6 is 9. And 9 times 5 gave us 45. So if we do that, our final answer will just be 14, because 45 divided by 10 will give us 4.5. And if you add 4.5 to this value that we have here, we arrive at 14. So that is how we arrive at the median be 14. Now let's quickly look at the mode. Now for the mode, our formula is on the screen, as you can see. The mode, for the mode, we have L1 plus delta 1 over delta 1 plus delta 2 times C. You have to substitute the values that we have here. Now our L1 is the lower class boundary of the mode. Our delta 1 is the frequency, is the difference in the frequency of the modal class and the class before it, while our delta 2 is the frequency of the modal class minus the frequency just after it. Now our C still remain the class width. Now since it's still the same question we are working on, our C will not change. So our C will still be 5, as in the case of the median class. But our L1, before we can determine the L1, we need to be able to identify the modal class, or the mode the class with the highest frequency. Remember that the modal class, or the mode, is the class with the highest frequency. Now if you look at the frequency column on the screen, you will notice that the highest frequency is 10. So if you trace it to your left under the number of absentees, you will notice that our modal class is 10 to 14. In this case, it is still the same as the median class, but that is not always the case. Sometimes it can be the same, at some other times it can be different. So there's no need for you to say any question you are solving, once the median class is this, then the modal class will still be the same thing. No. Sometimes it can happen like that, and some other times it can change. So for every question you solve, you have to check. Now, since we have also established the fact that what the highest frequency is what 10, move or trace to the left hand side, which is the number of what absentees. We got our what modal class to be what 10 to what to 14. Again, in this case, our L1 will be the what the lower class boundary of the modal class, because we are working on the mode. And since it is still the same thing in this place, remember we said our lower class word boundary is 10 minus what 0.5. It is 10 minus what 0.5. If you subtract 10 minus what 0.5, you are going to have what 9.5. Now our delta 1 is actually what the frequency of the modal class minus the frequency just what before it. Now if you look at what we have on the screen here, the frequency of the modal class is 10. The frequency just before it is 5. So 10 minus 5 will give us what? 5. Now delta 2 is the frequency of the modal class minus the frequency just after it. And that will be 10 minus what? 9. It will give us what? 1. Now with all these values in mind, if when substituted or plugged into the equation, our L1 was 9.5. Our delta 1 is 5. Our delta 1 is 5. And that is how we arrive at this value. Our delta 1 is 5. You plug in the 5, and our delta 1 is also 5. Our delta 2 is 1. So 5 plus 1 will give us all this set of what? Of values. Now, if you do your math very well, your 5 times 5 will give you what? 25 divided by 6. And when added to 9.5, it will give you what? 13.66 It can also be approximated. Remember that when we started the aspect or this topic of what? Of statistics, we said actually that our mean, median, and mode are actually what we call what the measures of what central tendency. It always aims to determine the value at the middle when what spread. If you look at everything we have, approximately everything is tending towards what 14. And if you look at the table we also have here, you will notice that what 14 in a way happens to be at the what at the middle of the what class interval or number of what absentees. Now this is exactly how we determine what the mean, the median, and mode of a group what frequency what distribution. I hope you have been able to enjoy it, and if you have any little what, if there are some things you did not understand, I would suggest you go over the video again so that you have a better what understanding of the video and the concept. Now again, I will also say, if you have truly enjoyed what you have watched, please subscribe to the channel, give us a like, and share with your friends so that they will also what get to learn as you also what learn also. If there's any question you ask or any comment at all or anything you want me to work upon, you can leave it in the comment section, and I will do in due course. I will attend to them. Thank you for your time, and remain blessed till we meet in our next class.